All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We have a very exciting week ahead of us. We got the start of earnings season and the CPI, but we are also going to hear from a bunch of Fed speakers, and now this is the final runway until Jerome Powell 2 weeks from now. So we got a lot to talk about. There was a lot that happened on Friday. I don't know if you were there, but we had a pretty epic move of the, well, first, this is the S&P. You see the drop, you see the pop, you see the drop back down, but this was all off of good data, and the first time that non-farm payrolls have came below consensus in 14 months. So we actually saw the job market weaken on Friday. That was after we had a very big surprise on Thursday related to it, but it led the market to move on Friday. It put us now in this spot, still holding the highs of the year and even higher than August of last year. But why this is so important now, because we have the CPI. The data on Friday was big, but given the reaction we got, some people are saying the CPI may not even matter that much. So what is going to matter? Chattadoni, I'm going to tell you, it's all about earnings. So we got a lot to talk about. I got the schedule for you. I got the breakdown. I even got a couple of plays. All I need from you is to drop your thumbs up on that video. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, youtube.com/the stock market. We will see you there live in the morning. I'm hyped today. That's it. I got the jersey on. It's game time, bro. That's it. Earnings and data, and then Powell. Again, it's about to get crazy here. Welcome to July, but let's start with the meat of the bone. It all comes down to the schedule. So Monday and Tuesday, this is where things are going to get interesting. On Monday, we will be hearing from 4 different Fed speakers. So I think that's going to be the most important thing. On Tuesday, you will get a little bit of data, but I'm skipping all the way to Wednesday now because this is where we get to hear about the CPI. So this is why this week is going to be so big and hold a lot of weight, because headline is expected to come down to 3.1%. Last year in July, inflation was running hot. So base effects and how things have been trending, everybody is expecting this to drop. Now, that's a big shock in terms of the number, but nobody cares about headline. Everybody cares about core, and we've been talking about how core has been sticky and has not been going down. Well, this week for CPI, core is now finally expected to shed that 5.3 and hit 5.0 flat, which means now core inflation will be decidedly, or I guess a little bit lower than the Fed funds rate, but that will be the biggest sign. So you get that on Wednesday, but now Thursday and Friday, you also get PPI data. Then you are going to be getting the the consumer sentiment. So there will be a lot of data. Wednesday will be the most important. Then there's going to be follow-up data, but I hate to break it all to you. I don't know if the data will be the most important. There was a headline over the weekend. Here's even a couple of news reports there, but it was talking about how, look at the Fed futures, look at where things have already been even after the jobs report on Friday. We probably shouldn't expect the CPI to change us too much. Now, depending on what these Fed speakers says, maybe, but the real mover I think that we're going to get this week, it's going to be the earnings. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday even, you don't really have anything. But now Thursday, Friday, this is the meat of the bone. And now this week, it doesn't look like a lot of companies, and it shouldn't be that big. We're either going to get a lot of nothing up until the earnings and then one big pop, or you may just really get a cuck and we don't do anything, and then everybody sets up for the Netflix and Tesla that comes after this week. But Friday, that's going to be the bank earnings, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, even a couple of regionals. This will be the biggest driver, in my opinion. I think even for July, I think July is going to be a good month. That's what the historical trends show. But even then, I think these earnings, this is probably what is going to drive us. We have Powell in 2 weeks, and if he keeps the same attitude and none of the other central bankers rock the boat, we are going to hear from the ECB this week. Even the Bank of Canada, they're going to raise their rates. Again, they were one of the whole stop and go countries as well. But overall, until these central bankers all change their tone, if Powell stays the same, I think earnings is going to be the biggest sale that we got coming into this next month. So depending on how how it performs. And now this week, as we start to get out the gates, depending on that first step, if the bank set it off good, I think that will be the big driver. So that's the schedule that we got. At the end of this week, it will be halfway through July. Investors are still asking the question of, do we sustain this rally or not? What do we see at the back half of 2023? But like I already told you, I think this is all going to boil down to earnings. So let us get into the plays. But right off the bat, with all that being said, I think it will focus on earnings. But with this week only being about the banks, you got to make up your mind. Are you going to play them or not? Last week, there was already a little bit of a run up. But like I'm already telling you here, we are going to have about 3 or 4 days and then even get CPI leading ahead of it. So if the market does move big, then maybe that'll be our opportunity. So that being said, I am not starting with a bank play, and even then, take a look at the SPY. Just give you one more refresh of how it looked just in terms of everything, because we have a lot of wiggle room. So even though it's earnings and we got all this data, I'm just telling you in a weird way, be mindful of the cuck and make up your decision whether or not you want to play some of these earnings now, because then you could be a lot more well prepared. But as far as the first play now, we're jumping across the pond. It's going to be Alibaba. So this one's going to relate to the weekend news, but even if you were there on Friday, they had an 8% move on them announcing that they were getting fined like $1 billion for the Ant Group. People thought it would have been a lot bigger, but now it's pretty much one of those could have been worse scenarios. The stock rallied. We made an average down on it just I think last week. So now I'm break even on this. I've held this position for a long time from the beginning of the year. I was always saying pretty much 20-30% top to bottom both ways on the China stocks. I think these are going to be good plays, but now there was also news on the weekend of them buying back equity. But the way I'm looking at it, I think we're going to have a big week here domestically with our earnings and everything else. But the last couple of weeks, we've been getting a lot of news. This Ant news, it's starting to pour in. I think it's getting some reactions. I am definitely going to be keeping my eyes out on Baba this week, and we are already positioned now. And I don't think I'm going to sell this one. I want to ride this one out for a little bit, so we're going to see how that plays out. But that is play number 1. Then play number 2. This one's a little bit early in my opinion. It is going to be related to earnings, and the earnings I'm talking about is Netflix, but the play is going to be Disney. Now, we've probably done this several times over the last couple of years. I have been adding Disney to the long term. Even on Friday, we added it to Colt Sister, and I thought I would add a little bit more of it, but now I'm considering some trades or shares to trade, but the play really is Netflix earnings next week, depending on the sentiment this week, and if we start to see the pre-earnings run-ups, I do want to keep an eye out for Disney, but also in the same regards, they can also sell off into earnings, and depending on the mood we get, even the fact if we kind of want to stay within the higher zone, it may be a little bit difficult even for the markets, just depending on what we get. But overall, if we start to see any signs of pre-earnings run-up, I am going to be keeping Disney in mind, so watch out for that. That is play number 2, and then finally, the last play I'm going to leave you with, it honestly goes a little crazy. Just watch out for wildness is what I'm trying to tell you. Rivian, XPEV, there has been a lot of even short squeezes. Again, Redfin, even like names like ARK. But what I'm trying to say here is that depending on sentiment, if people feel a certain way following earnings, getting into the second half, these are this is the last part of the rally so far that really hasn't participated if you really think about it. It's few and far between. And yeah, I know, again, if I show the Rivian chart, this thing looks crazy, but then again, Apple is at all-time highs, Microsoft, Meta, some of these in terms of dollars are way, way bigger than any of these have ever been. But this is something we've been talking about, and depending on how this data, earnings, or anything, if it kind of changes the Fed or brings about the soft landing narrative, anything of that nature, just keep your eyes out for these plays. I don't have any plays on them, but I've just noticed over the last couple of weeks, these have been pretty big call-outs. So we're going to see what happens. It's all going to come down to the data, though. We're going to have a good idea with the sentiment, but Chad, it's going to be an exciting week. We have a lot to deal with, and now we're really kicking off the second half, so I hope you're ready. But That is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you to remember to watch your heart. Keep it full, undivided, pure, and peaceful. Make sure your heart is in the game, and that's also with your head too. But what I'm saying is that you gotta make a commitment. You know what the best way to make a commitment is? Long-term, baby. 10%. I know I'm getting too crazy, Chad. I'm sorry, but I love you. Let's go. Let's have a good one. I can't wait to see you. We get a full normal week back. So, oh my goodness, this is going to be great, Chad. So drink up, stay hydrated. I will see you in the morning in Woosah. And we out, Chad. Woosah. I'm messing. Okay. Okay. I'll see you later. Bye.